Sometimes the things that may or may not be true are the things that a man needs to believe in the most. That people are basically good. That honor, courage, and virtue in everything. That good always triumphs over evil. I want you to remember this. True love never dies.
Next on TCM, Tender Mercies, then The Great Santini, and later, Apocalypse Now. Charlie Don't Surf on TCM tonight. Plan your escape.
Good evening, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Welcome to TCM, where tonight's lineup serves a dual purpose. We're continuing with 31 Days of Oscar, but our next three movies will also serve as a tribute to one of the finest actors the screen has ever seen, Robert Duvall. He died in February at the age of 95. Over the course of his extraordinary career, Duvall earned 7 Academy Award nominations. Ahead tonight, we have 3 of those films. We'll have Apocalypse Now, which brought Duvall a Best Supporting Actor nod, and The Great Santini, which landed Duvall one of his 3 nominations for Best Actor. But we begin tonight with the film that earned Robert Duvall his only Academy Award win. From Universal in 1983, directed by Bruce Beresford, Duvall leads the cast of Tender Mercies. There are so many ways to define the impact Robert Duvall had on screen. One is to think of how easy it is to recall the roles he played. I didn't know the word consigliere before I saw The Godfather. Now the word is forever linked to Tom Hagen, Duvall's character, the consigliere to Marlon Brando's Vito Corleone and Al Pacino's Michael Corleone. What about the line, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning"? Unmistakably Duvall, coming from his character, Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore, in Apocalypse Now. Both of those pictures came from writer-director Francis Ford Coppola, who worked with Duvall on 7 movies. After Duvall's death, Coppola called him an essential part of Coppola's production company, American Zoetrope, from the beginning. Duvall, who's been referred to as the Laurence Olivier of American actors, began his nearly 7-decade career on the stage in New York, where he studied and performed at the Neighborhood Playhouse in the mid-1950s. Duvall started getting television work in 1959, but his first big break came when screenwriter Horton Foote spotted him in a play and then recommended him for a small but critical role, a mysterious character named Boo Radley in the 1962 drama To Kill a Mockingbird. Duvall got the part, making his big screen debut, and Foote won an Oscar for adapting Harper Lee's novel. 20 years later, Foote wrote the Oscar-winning screenplay for Tender Mercies, which won Duvall the Best Actor Academy Award. Duvall stars here as Max Sledge, a once great country singer who gives up drinking and tries to get his life back together. Director Bruce Beresford said he found Robert Duvall's ability to disappear so fully into his roles uncanny, even creepy, the first time he witnessed it. "He is the character," said Beresford. "He's not Duvall at all." Duvall disagreed in a New York Times interview, saying, "It's still me, doing myself, altered." To get this character right, Duvall traveled hundreds of miles throughout Texas, recording local accents and singing in country music bands. Robert Duvall does all his own singing in the movie. He had that put into his contract, saying he didn't see the point of doing the film if he was going to lip sync to someone else. From 1983, also with Tess Harper, Betty Buckley, and Ellen Barkin. This is Robert Duvall in Tender Mercies. Tender Mercies earned 5 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director for Bruce Beresford, and Best Original Song for the track Over You by Austin Roberts and Bobby Hart. The film won 2 Academy Awards, Best Screenplay for Horton Foote, Best Actor for Robert Duvall. Duvall did all his own singing in Tender Mercies. In his Oscar acceptance speech, he expressed how happy and honored he was to receive the award, and also how pleased he was to have received compliments about the film from country music legends Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, and Waylon Jennings. This marked Duvall's 4th of 7 Oscar nominations. His career was bookended by 4 nods for supporting performances, starting with 2 films from Francis Ford Coppola in the 1970s, Godfather from '72, Apocalypse Now from '79. Duvall's last 2 supporting nominations came from legal dramas, A Civil Action in 1998 and The Judge from 2014. In between, he picked up 3 nominations for Best Actor, Tender Mercies, The Apostle, a passion project Duvall also wrote and directed, as well as the film we have coming up. Duvall stars as an emotionally volatile Marine pilot whose family suffers the consequences in the 1979 drama The Great Santini. That's next as our memorial tribute to Robert Duvall continues on Turner Classic Movies.
Next on TCM, The Great Santini, then Apocalypse Now, and later, The Champ. Go a few rounds with Oscar tonight.
Hi, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Welcome back to TCM and day 26 of 31 Days of Oscar. Tonight, our celebration of the Academy Awards doubles as a memorial tribute to an extraordinary actor and a legit Hollywood legend, the singular Robert Duvall. Born Robert Selden Duvall in San Diego in 1931, he was a military brat, the middle son of a U.S. Navy Rear Admiral. He wasn't an actor until he left home to attend a small liberal arts school in Illinois, Principia College. Why acting? Well, according to Clyde Haberman's excellent obituary of Duvall in the New York Times, Duvall fell into acting because he was, quote, terrible at everything else. In 1955, after a short stint in the Army, Duvall moved to New York to study at the neighborhood playhouse. That's where he met 2 of his closest friends, later his 2 roommates, Gene Hackman and Dustin Hoffman. In a career spanning 7 decades, Duvall delivered some of the finest performances of the 20th century: The Godfather Part 2, Apocalypse Now, Tender Mercies, The Paper, The Apostle, and the TV miniseries Lonesome Dove, to name just a few. He had a gift and a reputation for disappearing entirely into his parts. By and large, directors liked working with him. Herbert Ross, who directed Duvall as Sherlock Holmes's associate Dr. Watson in The 7% Solution, believed Robert Duvall could play any part in any type of movie. Only Duvall and George C. Scott, said Herbert Ross, have the range and variety of Laurence Olivier. That said, Robert Duvall's way and a director's way often clashed. Haberman quotes Duvall as saying he was always wary of directors. For example, he butted heads with Henry Hathaway, who directed Duvall and John Wayne in True Grit in 1969. Summing up his work with directors, Duvall said, I don't try to be a hard guy to work with, but I decide what I'm going to do with the character. I'll take direction, but only if it kind of supplements what I want to do. If I have instincts that I feel are right, I don't want anyone to tamper with them. Along the way, Duvall earned 7 Academy Award nominations, 4 for Best Supporting Actor, 3 for Best Actor. Up next, we have his first Best Actor nod. It's from 1979, The Great Santini. The title is a reference to Duvall's character, Lieutenant Colonel Bull Meacham, nicknamed The Great Santini. He's an exceptional Marine pilot, but a miserable husband and a dangerously incompetent father. Blythe Danner plays his wife, and Michael O'Keefe, who also earned an Oscar nomination, his oldest son, each of them trying to navigate the violence and stunted emotional awareness of Bull Meacham. As the son of a naval officer, Duvall could relate to The Great Santini, an adaptation of a novel by Pat Conroy, whose father inspired the character. But Duvall said his dad was quiet and brooding, nothing like the emotionally explosive character you're about to see. From Orion Pictures in 1979, adapted and directed by Louis John Carlino, the great Santini. The Great Santini is based on a novel by Pat Conroy, one of the 20th century's great Southern writers. Conroy set nearly everything he wrote in South Carolina, including his best-known novel, The Prince of Tides, later adapted into a film starring Nick Nolte and Barbra Streisand, who also directed it. Conroy based The Great Santini on his own challenging family dynamics. The Bull Meacham character was inspired by Conroy's father. Conroy later said his father hated the book, but he was delighted to see that his character in the movie was played by Robert Duvall. As Conroy put it, "My father took full credit for Duvall's career." The Great Santini earned Robert Duvall a Best Actor Oscar nomination, though it was hardly his breakthrough role. That had come nearly 2 decades earlier when he gave an unforgettable debut performance as Boo Radley in the 1962 adaptation of Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. By the time he made The Great Santini, Duvall was one of the most respected actors in the business, with 2 Oscar nominations under his belt for his supporting roles in The Godfather and the film we have coming up. Duvall stars alongside Marlon Brando in a film from a longtime collaborator, director Francis Ford Coppola. Apocalypse Now from 1979 is next on TCM.
Next on TCM, Apocalypse Now, then The Champ, and later, A Star is Born. Oscar's name is in lights tonight.
Hi there, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Welcome back to TCM, where we're winding down a tribute to Robert Duvall. He died less than a month ago on February 15th. He was 95. It's fitting that Duvall's tribute should fall during our annual Academy Awards event, 31 Days of Oscar. Duvall, universally considered one of the finest actors of his generation, was a 7-time nominee. Up next, Duvall gives the performance that earned him his 2nd Oscar nod. From 1979, produced, co-written, and directed by Francis Ford Coppola, Apocalypse Now. Coppola made this arresting anti-war war picture among the first major movies about the Vietnam War after the most successful period of his career. Coppola's previous 3 films were The Godfather, The Conversation, and The Godfather Part 2. Robert Duvall was in all of them. Though Duvall's role in The Conversation is small and uncredited, his character is critical to the story. Duvall earned his first Oscar nomination for The Godfather. Prior to that, he'd also co-starred in Coppola's memorably moving 1969 drama, The Rain People, alongside another actor who'd go on to appear in The Godfather, James Caan. Apocalypse Now is loosely based on a short novel published at the turn of the 20th century, Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Coppola and screenwriter John Milius transplanted Conrad's story set in the Belgian Congo to Vietnam. Martin Sheen stars as an American Army captain, a true believer, ordered to take out one of the Army's own, a colonel named Kurtz. Kurtz, a Green Beret, has set himself up as a god within a local tribe in the jungles of Southeast Asia. Kurtz is played unforgettably by Marlon Brando. On the journey upriver to find Kurtz, Sheen's character witnesses the horrifying realities and uneasy ambiguities of the Vietnam War, one of which is a ruthless, trigger-happy colonel played by Robert Duvall in one of his defining performances. Duvall delivers the film's most quoted line, one of the most famous lines in movie history. It is ranked number 12 on the AFI's list of the 100 greatest movie quotes of all time. In addition to Duvall's Oscar nod, Coppola earned 3 for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay. Released by United Artists in 1979, also with Dennis Hopper, Harrison Ford, Scott Glenn, and Lawrence Fishburne, just 14 when they started shooting. This is Apocalypse Now. Producer, writer, director Francis Ford Coppola made Apocalypse Now on location in the Philippines. The schedule called for a 5-month shoot. Turned out it took all 5 of those months, and then the time it takes to make a baby, 14 months in all. Problems plagued the production right from the start: natural disasters, health disasters, political obstacles, and ego problems, the latter mostly confined to Marlon Brando. Reflecting on the experience years later, Robert Duvall tried to put a positive spin on the stress of making Apocalypse Now. It was a nightmare, Duvall said, but fortunately no one was killed. In the end, Francis Ford Coppola emerged with one of the best anti-war films ever made, a defining movie of the 1970s. It earned 8 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay. It won Best Sound and Best Cinematography for Vittorio Storaro. The entire cast delivered memorable performances, though the only actor nominated was Robert Duvall, who famously told a soldier that the acrid, burning scent in the air was napalm, son, adding that nothing else in the world smells like that. Then he crouched down, shirtless, I'm going to spare you that part, and uttered maybe the most famous line in the history of war movies. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Smells like victory. That was horrible. It was the second of 4 nominations Duvall earned for Best Supporting Actor. He also earned 3 more for Best Actor. In an interview with the New York Times, Duvall said he liked being regarded as a supporting actor. As he put it, the best life in the world is the life of a second leading man. You travel, you get a per diem, and you've probably got a better part anyway, and you don't have the weight of the entire movie on your shoulders. Coming up, John Voight plays a washed-up boxer trying to reconnect with his son in an Oscar-nominated drama from 1979. The Champ, co-starring Faye Dunaway and Ricky Schroeder, is next on Turner Classic Movies.
Next on TCM, The Champ, then A Star is Born, and later, Tulsa. Oscar comes sweeping down the plain today.
Sometimes the things that may or may not be true are the things that a man needs to believe in the most. That people are basically good. That honor, courage, and virtue in everything. That good always triumphs over evil. I want you to remember this. True love never dies.